Hello everyone, welcome back to Coach Craig Sports. Today we are going to do a special episode. This one is going to be the recap from my bold predictions going into the season. This is going to be over the AFC East and the AFC South. So we're going to start off with the Buffalo Bills. My bold prediction for the Buffalo Bills heading into this season was Zach Moss would outscore Devin Singletary in PPR points. So this was a miss for me. Singletary ended up with 143.6 PPR points. Moss was 101.6 PPR points. Singletary was about 9 points per game. Moss was 7.8. Moss did miss a couple games in there as well. Kind of hurt him overall, taking over as that lead running back for the Buffalo Bills. I think next year Moss could definitely take that leap if they do not bring somebody else in. But overall, both these guys were not very good for fantasy this year. Then we got the Miami Dolphins. Like at the time, this one probably wasn't as bold, but it was still kind of bold. Jordan Howard finishes the season as a top 18 running back. This was me figuring he'd be the starting running back for the Dolphins, get probably 200 or so carries, get a good amount of touchdowns, 8 to 10 or so. And that didn't end up happening. We all know Myles Gaskin took over. Jordan Howard eventually was released. So he ended the season as the running back 89 in PPR, which is almost amazing. I believe he had 4 touchdowns though, but he really didn't have any yards at all this season. So that one was a big miss for me. It'll be real interesting to see if Jordan Howard lands somewhere where he can have some value once again, or if he just kind of gets washed out of the league. He's still a pretty young guy, had some success at the NFL level too. And the New York Jets, my bold prediction was Jamison Crowder finishes the year with 95 or more receptions. And this one was a miss as well. Crowder finishes the year with 59 receptions, which is actually the inverse of 95. He did end up missing 4 games this year due to injury. He had a 16-game pace of 80 receptions, so it was a little bit far off still. I kind of figured, with Sam Darnold and the way Adam Gase kind of had that offense constructed, using that slot wide receiver quite a bit, he could definitely get over that 90 reception plateau. Didn't quite get there. Joe Flacco was involved in some of those games too. He kind of took shots deeper down the field than Sam Darnold did, so definitely a miss there though. And then for the New England Patriots, Jacoby Myers finishes the year as a top 40 wide receiver in PPR. Going into this year, pretty much nobody knew who Jacoby Myers. He was one of my favorite buy low guys in Dynasty, him and Jeff Wilson Jr. We saw what both these guys could do this year. They were valuable fantasy pieces at some point in time throughout this season. I marked this one down as just missed. I know wide receiver 56 and wide receiver 51 quite aren't top 40, but if you play a 16-game fantasy football, he finished as the wide receiver 56. If you went through week 17, he was the wide receiver 51. Had quite a few useful weeks in there, especially in PPR formats. He only had 2 touchdowns. Both of them were throwing the ball. Cam Newton definitely didn't help him out in scoring touchdown department. Definitely a guy that's got some upside. Somebody you want to buy low on if you still can in Dynasty. Patriots probably going to bring in some other offensive weapons. Probably better quarterback play next year. Should definitely help him out as well. He essentially only played 11 games. First 3 or 4 games, he had 1 catch, but he was kind of relegated to minimal snaps. Kind of was inactive for 2 games, which is crazy because I think, honestly, he was their best wide receiver they had on that team. But, you invested first-round pick in N'Keal Harry. You had to try him out, even though he kept failing over and over again. Then we move over to the AFC South. And my bold prediction for the Houston Texans was Will Fuller finishes the season as a top 15 wide receiver in PPR. I called this one a pseudo hit because in my mind this is a hit, just some circumstances that limited it from being a full hit. So he finished the year as a wide receiver 30 in PPR scoring. He was 8th in PPR points per game this season. He had 17.2 points per game. That includes 1 goose egg where he kind of hampered off, with a hamstring pull, groin pull, something like that. The injuries that we all know he's famous for. But otherwise, he stayed really healthy this year. He only played in 11 games due to the PED suspension. He was suspended for the last 5 games. He's going to miss the first game next season in 2021. But if he lands in the right spot, this is a guy that you're probably going to get in the 5th or 6th round next year. And he's got wide receiver 2, wide receiver 1 upside in the right situation. He could be a steal of your draft next year. Look at what Stephon Diggs did this year. That could be Will Fuller next year. So this one I'm chalking up as a hit, even though it wasn't a full-on hit. Then the Tennessee Titans. My bold prediction for them was Jonnu Smith finishes as a top 8 tight end in PPR. The result was a miss. He finished as tight end 13. He started off the year very, very well. A little bit touchdown dependent, but as the weeks went on, as A.J. Brown and Corey Davis were both healthy, really limited his production overall. Corey Davis is probably gone next year. Jonnu Smith's a free agent as well. So it'd be interesting to see if he stays on with the Titans or if he moves on elsewhere and if he can increase his productivity. Then we have the Jacksonville Jaguars, and this one was real bold, I know, looking back at it now. But Tyler Eifert finishes the year with 10 touchdowns. My reasoning for this is, at the beginning of the year, Jacksonville did not have any red zone threats at all, besides DJ Chark. I thought the quarterback play would be a little bit better than it was this year, but it really was bad. They were really a poor team overall. Eifert did miss one game due to a concussion. He only ended up with 2 touchdowns. He was tied for second on the team with 11 red zone targets. 2 of them ended up being touchdowns. He didn't have a great year, but in terms of what he was given with around him, he had a decent year. Nothing that's going to blow you away in fantasy, but he was productive on the field when it did matter. He didn't have a single drop all year. That's very impressive to me. If you look at some of the advanced metrics, he's still a decent player. It'll be interesting to see if the Jaguars bring him back next year or not, or if he kind of moves on somewhere else. Then we got the Indianapolis Colts. And my bold prediction for this one was Michael Pittman Jr. outscores T.Y. Hilton. Michael Pittman Jr., he did miss 3 games with an injury as well. Leg compartment syndrome kind of took away from the momentum that he had been gaining up to that point in time. He ended up with 98.9 PPR points per game, 7.6 per game. T.Y. Hilton was at 164.2 PPR points, 10.9 per game. He had that 3-game stretch that really put him over the edge. Otherwise, these 2 guys would have been almost identical. But really disappointing year for both of them. Phillip Rivers really did spread that ball around. It'll be interesting to see who comes in at quarterback next year for the Colts, and if it can really give Michael Pittman Jr. that big year 2 bump. Maybe even Paris Campbell as well. Is T.Y. Hilton going to be back after free agency this year? Sounds like they want him back, but we'll see whether or not he comes back as well. Definitely going to be an interesting storyline for the Colts this offseason, especially in regards to that quarterback position. But with that being said, that's a quick recap of my bold predictions from the AFC East and the AFC South. Tomorrow I will be doing a recap as well, going over the AFC West and then the AFC North, my bold predictions for them, whether or not they were hits, misses. You will want to be sure to check that one out as well. If you guys had any bold predictions of your own that came true or didn't come true this year, I invite you to share them down in the comments. Definitely interesting to hear what your guys' bold predictions were from the 2020 season and whether or not they were a hit or a miss. If you guys have any bold predictions headed into the 2021 season, I know it's real early, but if you have any at all, feel free to share them down in the comments below. Definitely interested in hearing what you guys have to offer in that regard. But with that being said, if you guys are new to my channel, thank you for checking out this video. Definitely means a lot to me. I would greatly appreciate it if you became a subscriber as well. Definitely helps build the community that we're trying to build here at Coach Craig Sports, and that's really one for you, the viewers. Talking some fantasy football, talking football news, talking DFS, especially in regards to NBA. As we move closer to baseball season, I'll be covering some fantasy baseball and some baseball news as well. So if you guys are into that, or if you know someone that's into that, be sure to check that out as well. But with that being said, if you're a new or current subscriber yet to do so, also hit that notification bell down below. It'll let you know every single time I post up a new video. Tomorrow we'll be going over some more NBA DFS picks. And then, like I said, the bold predictions recap for the AFC North and the AFC West. Definitely will be a good one. You guys want to check that one out as well. But with that being said, thank you guys for tuning in to today's video. I really hope you guys all enjoyed it, and I hope each and every one of you has a great rest of your day.